Wait, remember Hot Wheels World Race? Around a year ago, I started talking about some of the Hot Wheels animated media out there. With this, World Race, and the Acceleracer series having my comment section filled with when I was going to cover them. So let's get into Hot Wheels World Race, the labeled first full-length Hot Wheels movie. But in reality, it's comprised of 5 episodes of a series called Hot Wheels Highway 35, and then turned into the full movie. Today, we are going to take a look at World Race through these segmented parts: Ring of Fire, The Greatest Challenge, Desert Heat, Frozen Fire, and Wheel of Power. The Hot Wheels media that came out in the 2000s holds unique nostalgia for many. It's something that is so part of its time thanks to the early use of CG animation, and as someone who collected Hot Wheels as a kid, I am all in for some Hot Wheels action. This all came to be in 2003 thanks to it being the 35th anniversary of when Hot Wheels were invented. So what better way to celebrate the 55th anniversary than by checking back in on some of the Hot Wheels supplementary media.
Welcome back to the 25 Days of Fringe-miss, where there's going to be brand...
Wait. Double Fringe-miss. Aw, you only thought you were gonna get 25 videos this year? Look at you. You look silly. But I'm here to fix that because I'm going to give you not only 25 videos, but I'm giving you 50 videos. I have 2 channels. That's 2 Fringe misses. Each day there'll be a brand new video on both channels for 25 days. I haven't slept in months. Enjoy the content. Or don't. For the first part of the movie, it is coming from the episode Ring of Fire and starts us off with Dr. Peter Tesla as we get introduced to this other dimension known as Highway 35, and he was trying to obtain an energy source known as the Wheel of Power. As he fails to reach this himself, he brings together a plan of a worldwide race, recruiting the best drivers and racers from around the world to compete in this with the proposed search of the best driver in the world, or at least the fastest, with a shot at $5 million. That's a lot of moolah. This is when we get introduced to our main character of Joseph Wheeler, and don't get him confused with Joey Wheeler, as we call this guy Vert Wheeler, a 16-year-old kid who had just received his driver's license who finds a little present in his driveway waiting for him. A brand spanking new Hot Wheels car that comes with a video note leading Vert, as well as all the other drivers out there that received a car and message, directions to a special location that the race will take place. We learn that there will be 5 different types of cars, all with different attributes. The Wave Ripper cars have jets that can fly into the air or hover above the ground. The Road Beast cars have blades on them that can cut through objects in their way. The Dune Rats cars have special spiked tires to traverse through sand with ease. The Scorcher type cars have different special tires that are apparently lava resistant. And lastly, there are the Street Breed cars that help with navigating through tricky mazes that come with a special radar system. For the intense speeds, Nitrox 2 boosters, giving the cars the ability to reach speeds of 300 miles per hour, which will be how the dimension Highway 35 is opened up, as we learn that this other dimension and the crazy racing tracks there were all put together by the Accelerons. So yeah, a 16-year-old newly licensed kid is perfect for this, right? At the start of this, he doesn't want a team. He's all for himself and not for coming up with others, as we see him and his other skateboarding friends having a chance to get sponsored by working together as a team, but Vert rejects this as he's just a solo act. And then we see him and his dad are at odds with one another, as after he gets his driver's license, he's still told that he cannot drive a car. But whatever, that's not important now, because this invitation is too sweet for Vert to not take his new gifted whip and head out to the secret location.
Hot Wheels' coolest cars. Hot Wheels' first ever animated movie.
Meeting some of the other drivers and making a less than stellar impression on them, being both young and an amateur, not taking it as seriously as others like the character of Taro. Vert's car is a Wave Ripper, matching his skating and surfing vibes, but he is still wanting to tackle this alone, even after another character named Lonnie, who also has a Wave Ripper car, offers to team up with their best interests at heart. But it's not long until the first part of this world race starts, reaching 300 miles per hour and opening the portal that brings them to a track that is built throughout a volcano. Vert doesn't start off the race super well, as he gets knocked pretty hard off the track by another racer named Kurt, but he notices that it felt like nothing and that his car is still perfectly fine, understanding more about the physics of the race. But the track is full of dangers that some of the cars, and by that the racers, can't overcome right away, with tough jumps and seemingly impossible loop-de-loops to conquer, and Vert uses his knowledge and skills from skateboarding to handle and show the others how it's done. I guess he may just have what it takes to start dealing with the best of the best fast after all. Taro quickly catches up out of anger, and the two ferociously battle it out to continue through the course, and clearly, Taro has the upper hand here thanks to his car, a Scorcher car, being able to take on any lava in the volcano that decides to pop up. To which it does, thanks to another and new mysterious racer known as Z36, who springs a trap that sets off the volcano as the rest of the racers try to make it out okay. But Taro may have a heart after all, as Lonnie gets into some trouble in the lava, causing him to turn around to go save her as Vert heads on for a bit, but then also starts to have a change of heart as well, worried that Taro may not be able to help her alone get out of this situation. So now he shows up to help as well, and they work together to save Lonnie and start seeing eye to eye. But thanks to this, Kurt ends up taking the win for the first bit of the race. But come to find out that this was only the start of even more dangerous, nail-biting races to come. And this first race was really just a test to see who is going to stay in the race, to continue on to the real races and lead a team of other racers as the stakes are brought up to $5 million for each member of the winning team, forcing Vert to push aside his feelings of having a team and become the leader of one as he accepts to stay in the challenge. There will be 5 teams with Vert leading one, and the others will be led by Kurt, Taro, Banji, and Brian, as we'll get to follow a bit of them individually further throughout the remaining parts, as part 1 here is really only focused on Vert. He's the central character, but as this goes on, we will start shifting to have a little bit of focus here and there on all the others. As the teams are getting built up and assembled, Dr. Tesla is ready to bring them in further to what truly is at stake here, leaving it on a cliffhanger for the audience, of course. Unless you're watching the movie version, as we get into part 2 titled The Greatest Challenge, Dr. Tesla explains to the others about the Wheel of Power, and that it could be the greatest source of power the world has ever known, tasking them to do their best to win the race and bring in the Wheel of Power. At the same time, Z36 is working with another mysterious person who has Zed infiltrate the races to get the Wheel of Power first for them instead of Dr. Tesla. But both sides seem shady, so I hope no one gets it.
This double Fringe Miss is brought to you by Gamer Subs.
Alright, yeah, you got me. It's time to talk about Gamer Subs a little bit. Look, it's fantastic. I love the brand. There's some really awesome people behind the scenes. They're supporting the heck out of the channel, and you're supporting the heck out of them, which in turn supports the heck out of the channel. So thank you. Really. Thank you. It's also less than 1 calorie per serving and sugar-free. And if you go over to Gamer Subs, hit that link down below. Guess what? 10% off. Use code FRINGE. 10% off. I know you don't want to pay that 10%. So don't. Use code FRINGE. But that doesn't matter. The second leg of the race is ready to go. The teams are assembled and we start shifting our focus to Taro a bit more here. This time the portal brings them into a jungle-inspired track area that presents a lot more challenge now than the last one. At one point in this race, they all come across a special rotating wheel that confuses the drivers about how to overcome this. One of them has to be the best racer out there, so of course they gotta figure it out in one way or another. Also, Zed has come around to destroy a bridge that they've already crossed, leaving them no option to return back. Vert gets himself crossed up in the mix as he learns that he has to work with the others as a team and watch out for them, divide responsibilities, and do this all together. So it may be quick, but there is good character growth here. Lonnie figures out the exact speed needed to time everything perfectly, but Mark, who is on the Wave Rippers team and the younger brother of Kurt, gets caught up in the wheel and causes an explosion on it that he barely survives, leaving the rotating wheel to start spinning out of control where Banji and Vert can't get the timing needed ahead of time from Lonnie, leaving it up to them taking a risk at top speeds to make it, but they end up hitting a part of the wheel as they cross through it, exploding the rest of the wheel fully as Taro and Brian ride neck and neck for a tie at the finish. In the meantime of the wheel situation, Zed watches but decides to no longer interfere, making his character more complex and interesting. The bit of time we focus on Taro in this race, we see how he handles himself in the car, being able to essentially slow down time in his head to navigate through the other racers and obstacles. For more with Zed, we see that he meets up with the lady he was speaking to earlier, feeling like he can't sabotage the other drivers and having this moral side to him for some reason. But that lady, for whatever reason that we shall find out later has these glowing eyes, continues to manipulate Zed to go and get the wheel before Dr. Tesla, and doing so at any means necessary, telling him that killing off the other drivers may come at this cost. Sheesh, I thought this was a fun little racing series about toy cars. I didn't know death was at stake. The next race is teased with the potential of finding the Wheel of Power there, but I doubt that because, well, there is more than just the next part of the race to still deal with. So that's just a hunch. As we start this third third part, known as Desert Heat, we see some of the focus now go over to Brian, learning that he has this spiritual connection to his people and wanting to win money to help them, but was given a warning of what is to come in the next part of the race. Given the title, the next part of the race brings us to a desert-based area as all the racers make their way through the portal, and there was a lot of sand on the track, making the dune rats have the advantage here thanks to their car's abilities. Everyone tries to figure out how to navigate it with what they have, like the wave rippers using their hover abilities to treat the sand as a giant ocean to surf. As Brian takes the lead here, he comes across a giant T-Rex statue, while other members of his team end up riding up and through the T-Rex and off of it as Zed returns once more, forcing one of the other drivers to crash.
35 tricked out cars. Racing on a track that's out of this world.
Brian, still in the lead, ends up reaching these glowing pyramids that contain the Wheel of Power at the top. Wow, I guess we're getting to that already. But after he puts it on his car, Zed approaches and chases after him, hitting his car with a blast of energy and ramming into him, causing him to eventually lose the Wheel of Power as it rolls away towards the other drivers, making a lot of them turn around and start chasing the runaway wheel. But with Taro and Banji not focusing on it and continuing the race, Vert thinks something is up with it as well, believing it to be a distraction and not the real wheel. Continuing on in the race as we cut back to Brian and Zed getting into a fight, revealing that Zed was actually Kurt the whole time as Brian defeats him in the fight and leaves him there, taking the wheel and entering back into the race. But just like the others thought, once the race is done, as we see that Banji barely edged out Taro here, the world race isn't over yet, and the wheel that Brian had grabbed falls apart as it was a fake the whole time. Vert gets to spend some time with Brian now as we hear that Kurt had run away after he was turned in for his actions. Brian opens up to Vert about why he is racing, the struggles and needs of his people driving him to drive, with Vert mentioning not thinking about what the money could mean for the others, and why they are all there. As we catch up with Kurt, the mysterious lady named Galorum returns to intercept him driving off, forcing him to still work for them, even if he wants no part of this. Brian continues to connect to his spiritual side as he gets his focus back after feeling so down on himself from the previous race, knowing that what his people need is a leader like himself who will be there. We get to the fourth part of the world race titled Frozen Fire, with Kurt getting back into the race along with two other drivers assigned to protect him, especially since, he's no longer supposed to be a part of it, kind of disqualified for, being evil. This part of the race is also treated as a potential last race that they have to face, as they all prepare at the start, getting ready to hopefully see the Wheel of Power. But out of nowhere, Kurt and the other two cars speed past them to get the portal open and go through it first, with a deeper focus on Kurt here for this part naturally. Going through the portal, they are all brought to an Arctic area. As Kurt speeds through the course and the other two with him are setting up traps and obstacles for the others, placing spike balls on the track, leading to the racing team seemingly starting the connections of working together for the greater cause here, while Kurt's bodyguards transform into planes that start bombing the ice to block off more parts of the track. Mark from the Wave Rippers is pushing ahead as much as he can, putting himself in direct danger as Kurt becomes concerned about his younger brother. He tries to warn him, spinning his car around and transforming back into his old look, but when Mark doesn't listen to him, he decides to double back and try and reach him as Mark plows through these mines that were left by the bodyguards, blowing up part of the track and sending Mark flying. And at the last second, Mark is able to have his car grappled to the edge of a cliff, suspending him over a chasm and saving himself, but becomes unconscious for the time being. Kurt then reaches his brother and no longer listening to the commands given to him, trying to save Mark. And with the other racers taking a drive through an ice maze to avoid the roadblocks, the street breed cars use their radar to help navigate them through it all. Kurt ends up taking out one of those assigned helpers, who then pops out as this weird robotic humanoid trying to stop Kurt from saving his brother instead of going directly for the wheel. Mark eventually wakes back up using the boosters on his car to shoot up and take out the robot, but Mark continues on, claiming he doesn't need help from Kurt as Kurt explains what his plans are and wants to help Mark still win. But the brothers are at odds because Mark refuses any help, not willing to cheat to prove he's the best racer. He's had this little brother syndrome where he's always wanted to be like his big brother but refuses to live in the shadows now and wants to pave his own path. This gives us a battle between the brothers racing each other until Kurt knocks Mark way behind, as all the other racers catch back up and join in some more. But then the other robot bodyguard comes around to get in the way, and after some battles here with the different racers and the robot, Vert sees an opportunity to cause the robot driver, or pilot I guess, to crash, leaving the race here to be between Vert and Kurt in the end, leading to some back and forth between them that eventually causes Kurt and his cockiness to crash and for Vert to land and a victory in the race, but Vert finds himself entering into a city perfectly fit for cars, and believes to see the Wheel of Power, grabbing it as more robots come after him and transporting all of the racers back to the original starting area. We now enter the final bit titled Wheel of Power, and there will be a tiny bit of focus on Banji here since he's the last one who didn't get as much focus. But we start off with the race being over now. Vert, having claimed the wheel, leaves him and his team as the declared winners of the race, and him as the fastest driver in the world. All of the members of the team are given $5 million, and every driver who participated is able to keep their cars, as Banji offers another fun race between them all. The access to Highway 35 is closed though after claiming the wheel, with all of them getting suspicious of Dr. Tesla's intentions as they break into his private office, while at the same time Kurt tries to go off on his own again, as Galorum stops him, telling him he is no longer needed as she sets up an assault on Dr. Tesla to get the Wheel of Power. Speaking of him, he informs the others in his office of the unlimited clean power that this Wheel of Power can generate, and why it's more important here than in the safety of the other dimension that the Acceleron's built. But the power is too strong, causing a massive blackout to happen after it surged, with Dr. Tesla only realizing what his actions have caused once his robot companion was hurt and affected by it. Galorum shows up demanding the Wheel of Power, but the plan is to now return it to where they found it, with Vert volunteering to do so as the other drivers stand beside him, willing to ride with him and help defend the wheel from Galorum and her forces.
Movie is not in theaters or video stores. It's in the Hot Wheels aisle.
As they deal with this, the portal is opened as Kurt enters into the mix again, revealing that Galorum herself is a robot as he demands her to not let her army of other robots hurt the others, realizing he must go in as well to help out. As they get into the city, the battle rages on with all of the Hot Wheels car action you could ever want, but eventually Vert avoids crashing into Banji and ends up flying off the track, and now his car won't start back up. But then Kurt comes in to save him from the robots, helping him and his car get back up and running and escorting him the rest of the way to return the wheel. Galorum shows up and destroys some more of the track, leaving him without enough power to make the jump up to place the wheel where it needs to go, and now having limited nitrox to make it, he attempts the jump again as Kurt comes in to knock Galorum and her ship out of the sky so Vert can actually do so, barely making it to the top of the tower to place the Wheel of Power back, restoring the racing city and the dimension as a whole back to normal, with Galorum and her army retreating for now, threatening that this isn't over yet. After they admire the view of Hot Wheels City, Vert speaks with Brian, handing him the check that he had won, showing his growth as a person and having a heart for others aside from himself. All of the racers make playful digs at one another about racing for fun sometime, as Vert's dad is waiting for him at Dr. Tesla's base and is proud of him for doing the right thing, being told about all of what happened from Dr. Tesla, but still grounds him, naturally. But their relationship seems to be way better than where it was at the start of the movie, taking him for a spin in his car and bringing him to Highway 35 to close out the film. It's a really solid ending that made the whole journey worth it. Whether you witnessed it in 5 parts originally or only ever saw it as a movie, I think the amount of fun to be had here makes this kind of a fun classic. Sure, it can be cheesy, the dialogue isn't that incredible, and some of the plot is pretty predictable, but it's still really solid. The action is dynamic and it's fun to watch, making good use of the CG world that they built, with the cars feeling like they have weight to them, and the characters all being fleshed out for the most part. Vert, as the main character, has the biggest growth in the long run, becoming a person who can work with a team, care about others, doing what is right, and being selfless, with Kurt having the other strongest narrative, having a change of heart, showcasing the care he has for his brother, and in the end doing what is right and working with the others to save the day. While everything involving the intentions of Galorum and Kurt's connection to it aren't deeply explored, this isn't the end of these characters and their stories. In fact, there's a whole set of movies under the Acceleracers name that will continue the adventures of these Hot Wheel racers, which we will cover fully in another video. This new brand for Hot Wheels for the 35th anniversary was also showcased in physical products as well, with Hot Wheels toy cars, of course, and even a video game with a version on home consoles and for the Game Boy Advance. The Hot Wheels brand was trying to build larger and larger with how they expanded in all aspects of media. While this series or movie wasn't their first attempt at expanding their property, this would mark their actual planning of hitting all of the mediums that they possibly could out there, as this was what the market was feeding on at the time anyway. Luckily, they already had a popular popular product that had been out for 35 years, but expanding that further, creating characters and stories that branch into shows and video games for their consumer base to get into was their goal. With how much this, Accelerators, and even Battle Force 5, which the latter we've already covered, there was a lot of love and nostalgia for these Hot Wheel animated movies and shows. As far as World Race, it's a fine enough introduction into what comes next. It establishes cool characters to follow and get behind, as well as delivering something fun on its own that surely will leave you entertained. But let me know your thoughts on Hot Wheels World Race in the comments below. I've been Jordan Fringe. Thanks so much for watching. Like and subscribe. Later.